On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
Everybody out there listening, like you could be very successful, whatever you define success as. Just have your right team in place, your right systems in place, and be adaptable because no matter what business you're in, you just have to be able to pivot.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe. I'm your host, Gathering the Kings. I've got Dan Rivers on the stage today. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Yes, how you doing, man?
You know, we were just talking off the air, and because I'm having a crush day, just had an awesome weekend, and it sounds like you've had some awesome trips here recently. You were just telling me you've been to Ireland and Denver and Boston with your family. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you. We're going to pull from both of our recent traveling experiences.
Awesome.
But Dan, tell us what kind of business that you're in, how you come into the King stage today. What are you up to?
Yeah, I'm in real estate. Kind of a quick background about me. I've been in real estate for about 15, 16 years now. Started my journey about 24 years old in property management down in Tampa, Florida. It's actually kind of a cool story. I will tell you this. I was working at a bank, just one of the people who work behind the open up checking accounts and stuff. And I'm doing a loan for a guy from Boston. And this is down in Tampa.
Okay.
And just happened to be doing a loan with them. And I'm chatting with him. His name's Sean. And at the end of it, he's like, I really like the way you do business. You want to come do property management? And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but sure, let's do it. Let's give it a try.
Wow, this is the first time you've met this guy, or have you met him like repeatedly?
First time I met him.
Wow.
Well, I'm sorry. First dealing with him. I might have met him like 2 or 3 times to get the loan wrapped up.
Sure. But first situation.
First situation. And I'm like, sure, why not? I'll give it a go. I'm 24 years old. I'll give it a crack.
Yeah.
I start day one. Here's 16 properties, including high rises on Clearwater Beach and different parts of Tampa. Yeah. About,
Good.
I don't know,
Take luck, you know?
1,500 units. I'm responsible for 2,000 units, whatever it was.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my journey in real estate. And one of the things that it really taught me is you got to learn by fire. I had to get organized real quick and I had to learn. Yeah. To learn the
That's awesome, man. I love what you shared there. I'm always going to try to pull out some things that you're saying, but you know, kind of underlying for the listener here. But what I heard you just say, man, is when something comes across the desk, it doesn't mean that you say yes to everything, but man, you said yes without even thinking. You know, I'm sure you thought a little bit, but I think we can all think about those moments where we're just like, you know what, that feels right. Yes. And most of those, I think those moments turn out right. So I think that's easy. You're already dropping nuggets on us in your first sentence. Listen to the intuition, say yes, go hard, you know? So, okay. Well, so before we jump into your history and a little bit more of that story and some of the other things you've done in real estate, I want to know at this level, right? Like at the King's level, where you've got a healthy business, you're making great money, you've got a team, all these things that we're going to talk about. Why do you keep pushing even at this level?
I think one of the biggest, most important things is your why, whatever your why is. And you need to determine what that is. And that's fine. It's different for everybody. Like for me, my why, it's a little selfish, but it's time. Like it's time for me and time for my family. But it's me too. Because if I'm not happy, then I'm not right. They're not, I'm not going to treat them well. So you got to know that why. So my whole goal is to just have as much time as possible. I tell friends and people all the time, I'm like, I want to be that dad when I go to my daughter's, whatever she wants to do, softball, basketball, recital, it doesn't really matter. When I go, they're like, why is this dad always here? Does he work? What does he do? How is he always around volunteering and around? That's what I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So that's why.
It's almost like a little bit of a trophy. I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but when I go to events with my kids, I'm not the only dad, but let's just be honest. We're pretty much the only dad. And it's not like I'm a better than, but it's like, man, I'm doing something right. That to me, like it has really nothing to do with the fact that nobody else is there as far as dads, because I'm not really comparing that. But for me, like what you were just saying, it's like one of those things, like a check for me. Like I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing if I can take the day off and go to whatever the school called it, like outdoor day or whatever. I was helping with an obstacle course or something, you know? So is that kind of like what you feel there? Or is it like like I just desire to be with the family or what? Like, tell me the innards of what's happened on the inside for you.
Yeah, it's more of like I'm 41 years old right now. About to be 42 in a few years. And I really didn't start the big part, the investment part, the working for myself, betting on myself till I was 38. So it's only been about 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit, I'm in a point in my life where I'm like, hey, yeah, it's great. I make good money. I do all that stuff. But it just, I, s- I, s- I'm on my second wife. I'm divorced. But she is, I couldn't be any happier. Like this is the perfect
Yeah.
woman. Like she is,
Yeah.
and I have a beautiful daughter. So it's really just about, I want to make sure that when I'm 70, when I'm 80, when I'm 90, however long I live, that I look back and I don't regret time not being spent.
Yeah. 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 I love that perspective of, I think a lot of time spent, especially in youth, you know, it's like we're just after the world. But when you have perspective of, you know, whether it's a divorce and a marriage or kids or all these things that happen through the course of time, you look back and you're like, wow, my time is pretty valuable and I would rather spend it doing fill in the blank, you know? So, okay, well, let's get into some of your story here. I'd love to obviously hear how you got started, but how did it transition from, you know, you working 2,600 units at 24 to, you know, obviously 15, 14 years later, starting your own thing just a couple of years ago? Were there little side hustles along the way? Did you start, or was it just starting 3 years ago? Give us a little bit history there.
No, honestly, I had stopped property management, we'll say around 2016, did a little
Okay.
bit of pavement sales, concrete sales. I had a good friend that opened up a company. He just believed in me. So I was like, I'll give it a shot. I don't know what I'm doing, but let's have some fun.
Yeah. Let's learn
And
sales.
And I learned a lot in that though. I just learned like the freedom of selling and kind of making your own paycheck to some degree.
Yeah.
And then my wife, one of the deals that we had when I met her, she's like, cause she was about to leave Boston when we had first met. And she's like, hey, I'll stay around. She knew something was, but she's like, I need to get out of here someday.
Yeah.
Sure, let's do it. So literally, I think it was the end of 2017, we just took a road trip to North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and we realized we want to move to Charleston, South Carolina. We quit our jobs. I just said, hey, she landed her job 2 weeks before we moved here. And I just said, hey, I'd really like to get my real estate license. I enjoy real estate. I enjoy the sales end of things. I kind of want to put that both together. And
Yeah.
she believed in me. She said, go for it. And that's what happened. I just went, got my real estate license. About 5 months in, I met some investors, a great local network of investors down here in Charleston.
Yeah.
I met investors and I was like, wait a second, that's what I want to do. I want to invest in
Huh?
real estate.
Yep.
And it took me 38 years to read Rich Dad Poor Dad and figure that path, but I
Wow.
did. And I've been able to kind of grow it over the past 3 years.
Yeah, and to liken it even to the listener here, because sometimes, I mean, we're I'm sure we have people listening who are in real estate, but we've got people who aren't also. But to kind of tie these two pieces together, what I heard you say is how you got started was because of the sales and like property management experience. You thought, okay, I'll take a shot at, you know, selling real estate, which to me is like, you know, you're in the business, like you're just an individual salesperson, 1099, which is kind of like running an individual business. Maybe you got a team member or something, you know, maybe as an agent, you got an assistant or something, but it's really just you. It's trading time for money. And that's mostly what listeners today, right now, probably are doing. They have a team member or two or three or four, but they haven't cracked that seven-figure level yet where they've been able to like really press into leveraging their time, really press into leveraging their resources or key relationships, which you just did. You said I took relationships and flipped my perspective to, okay, I don't want to trade time for money. I want to build a system. So in this case, you're building a real estate system, but someone can do this in business too. They can build a business system, which Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about, where you have this thing. We got to get into this place where we have this thing that's not dependent upon our actual, you know, time in, time out effort. So I love how you started us off. I want you to tell me from that beginning of the journey, still in the history here. I want to know a little bit more. Did you just like, okay, great, I'm gonna be an investor, like I'm gonna go get money? Like, tell us how that actually transpired once you met these guys and then you started doing deals.
Yeah, no. So no, it was more of like, I started real estate. I got one of my first listings was a piece of land in a small town here. It's a junk listing. But what it did was I ended up meeting this lady, Ruby, and I didn't know at the time, but she is now one of the biggest powerhouse flippers here in Charleston.
Yeah.
And she had
Was
just
she
started.
then?
No, She had just
No.
started her venture. I think she might have done 1 or 2 flips.
Yeah.
And then we just started. Was her agent. She was flipping, and we did probably about 18, 20 deals together in the first 12 months of knowing each other, and just grew close and helped each other grow and get going. And that's when I started going up to the local REI meetup. For those not in real estate, your local business meetups, like
Yep.
just got around the same type of people
Yeah.
and just met some absolutely amazing powerhouses here. I mean, I know one of this guy that became friends with that I really learned some stuff from. He works with 2 other partners and has 4,000 plus rental units. I actually passively invest in some of his multifamily. And just some great people down here. But it all started from just kind of just meeting a couple people, figuring out the business, and then saying, you know what, they're doing it. Why can't I? She's running a 7-figure flipping business. Why can't I run this more like a business?
Yeah.
Because like you just mentioned, cash flow quadrants, you could be, an employee, self-employed, which a lot of people are as a realtor, a business owner, which is what I want to be. And then ultimately that investor. And I just really focused on that. I was like, all right, I'm in the S. Let me move to the B and I.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Love that perspective. Okay. So let's talk about along the journey here, especially since you've grown quite quickly. If you started, roughly 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and here you are, or 4 years ago, I guess. I'm over here trying to calculate math. I mean, to be where you are now, you've moved fast is my point. And so in there, you've made some good and bad decisions. I want to know a good decision right away off the top that comes to your mind of something that you've done that would be applicable for the listeners to take away that they could implement today.
Hiring the right people.
Give us an example.
So I realized quickly that I can't do it all. And if I try to, I'm just going to fail. So I brought on an operations guy, director of operations. And I said, okay, let's partner up. You handle what are your strengths? You handle that. I'll take my strengths and I'll continue to sell. And it's so important. I don't know if you ever listened to Steve Schwartzman's
No, I haven't actually.
It's a great book. He's one of the creators of Blackstone. And he talks about bringing on 9s and 10s. Like you can all day long bring on, 6s and 7s and save your money, but you bring on 9s and 10s and your operation just levels up. So I offered this guy a good package. I said, hey, listen, I want you to come join me. I saw he was dabbling in real estate, but he had just smart, good person. And I was like, all right, I'm going to bring on this operations guy. And it just, that helped me. That one move helped me just crush my goals last year in July. Like that one little move really helped me level up in business.
How did you know that you needed, in this case, an operations guy and not a sales guy? Like, how did you know who to bring on?
Well, number one, I recommend this. I don't care what business or industry you're in, get a good mentor / coach. Good. And my coach is actually a business partner in some ventures now, but she is amazing. She's a powerhouse and she runs her business very similar to how I want to run my business. So I got a coach. I saw how she ran her business and I saw her right-hand person is amazing. And we were talking, and I was like, I need that role. And I figured out quickly. And what I did was I jotted down all the tasks that I need done, what I like to do, and what I need. I don't need a sales guy. I could sell and build relationships all day long because it's all about just caring, listening, and taking care of someone's needs.
Yeah.
I needed someone to do the operations part because I got ADHD through the roof and I'm still for more than 5 minutes. Yeah. So we figured that role and it kind of rolls into, I literally 2 hours ago just hired an executive assistant.
Yeah.
Because I realized I needed that role as well. I'm still not. I need to be more organized and stay on top of things a little bit more as I grow. Yeah. So I spent the money and I just hired a 10 executive assistant so that I can have a powerhouse of a team. So I think team building is big takeaway here.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think that what you even said a minute ago, like the practicality of how you did it. And for the listener who's paying attention right now, you have your pen and you have your notebook. I want you to write this down. He said he made a list. Like it's that easy. Think about what you're doing and write down everything. Everything. I was literally just on a roundtable this morning and I'm telling a guy across the Zoom, write it down, bro. Everything from the email to the what you did to get up to like everything. Some of those you're going to give away. Some of those you're not. Some of those you want to give away, but you can't quite yet. And so I think that that's the delegation piece, right? You have to identify it first and give it away. And then to your second piece, which is the building teams and the leadership piece, that's long lasting. Like, cause I can delegate all day long. If I find the list and then give it away, that's delegation. We can do that pretty simply. But if I have to delegate to different people constantly because they're not willing to stick around because they're either the wrong person or they're not a 9 or a 10, like you said, or they don't believe in you because you're a bad leader. Like that's the second layer to that, which is you've got to grow you as a leader. You got to know how to lead people and how to pull the best out of people, because that 9 or that 10, if you're not a good leader, they ain't going to be there long anyway, even if they are a 9 or 10. Right.
And you got to treat them for their value. One of the mistakes out of the many, many mistakes I've made in my life was I tried to, instead of an executive assistant, I tried to cheaply hire a part-time, full-time, but an administrative person.
Yeah.
And they weren't a bad person. They just weren't the right fit. Like the expectations I had weren't being met, and it wasn't their fault. It was my fault for hiring wrong. It was my fault for not really honing in on what I needed. So again, that's where coaching and mentoring help. They said, you know what, bite the bullet. You got to pay this range and go get a powerhouse.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The difference there is huge. I normally don't share a whole bunch as far as like from my perspective here, but this is good. We're right on a topic that I've recently gone through. So I'm going to share it real quick. So obviously I've got multiple businesses, different industries. And so I have done the team building thing. I know how to delegate. Like all of these things come at this point pretty natural. But to the layer that you just said, I had gotten really good at going, okay, like this business has a manager or has a key person, but I have now all of these key people. And then there's this like gray area that is really me, but it's associated with all these things I have to do with. And so just to hone in on that perspective, for me, it was, okay, I've got a key person in all these different angles, but then there's so many things that I need to do in order to provide the value that I need to in each of the different businesses that I have. And I needed someone to help me with that, right? Like to know a little bit of all of it, or to be that executive assistant really is what it is, to do all of the things with me or to support me. And as I'm doing it, it's not just they're associated to this one business or to this one project or this one deal. It's like, no, that they've got a little bit of everything. And then really now they have the keys to everything. In fact, I just gave her some information the other day. She said, I can effectively ruin you with all the information that you've given me. I was like, yep, thank goodness that you won't, but it's like, man, you really want to give something away. You give away, that close best thing, that executive assistant role. I know the next 12 months for you is going to be incredible as far as growth wise, because you just freed yourself of so many different, things that person's going to do for you. It's going to be incredible.
And it's scary too. It's scary. Like, again, I grew quickly. So you got to realize I haven't been making crazy money for 10 years. It's been a couple years of some strength. So like, it's a little bit harder to do that. And I just said, you know what? I believe in myself. I just had to believe in myself. I'm like, I've already been gambling on myself. My wife gambles on me. Like, I'm like, I'm going to go for it. And you got to think of it in short, like maybe it's 6 months. You think of it's 12. A lot of people are like, oh, I got to hire this person. I'm paying them. We'll just throw a number, like paying someone $100,000 a year.
Right.
It's like, why don't you break it down? You're paying them $8,000 a month or 80
right. Yeah.
If something doesn't work out in 6 months, then you make a change at that point. It's amazing on what you can accomplish when you bet on yourself.
Yeah. I love that, because I think that if we're being honest, the listener right now, they've bet on themselves for sure, because they're not working for somebody else, right? They did take the leap. They do run a good business, but it's limited. They haven't moved on because of this right here. I mean, there's several things. I mean, team building, hiring, delegating, all these things we've been talking about, but this is the baseline of it. You haven't hired out or really pressed into finding the right person or fighting through some of the bad people because you haven't bet on yourself enough. You haven't been willing to pay enough because you haven't bet on yourself enough. You haven't uploaded or upgraded your leadership skill because you haven't believed in yourself or bet on yourself enough. And so I think that what you just said is probably the bedrock, dude. Like if I had to sum up probably what is keeping the listener right now in where they are, they just haven't bet on themselves deeply enough. Right.
And it's hard. It's hard because obviously
super hard.
Believe in themselves. I'm sure they believe in themselves. But it's like, it's scary when, at least for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, when someone else's livelihood is in my hands.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about myself. I'll figure out myself. But when someone else's livelihood's in my hands, that's a next level of responsibility. And that's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, you kind of already said, you kind of correlated that a little bit to a bad decision, but I'm going to ask you anyway, what's something that you did that you just, face palm, you wish you couldn't, you take it back, something that you could keep us away from a bad decision. What was that?
So many, but I will go, which by the way, I do have a motto. It's either you win or you learn. You never
Love it.
fail, you never lose, you win or you learn. So my biggest learning lesson, well, one of my big ones was, especially in a market like this. So one of my avenues of businesses is flipping homes.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was about to go to Hawaii. It's baby moon. It's like literally 3 days before I go look at a home. And down here in Charleston, South Carolina, I don't know if it's where you're at, but this big termite issues down here. Like there's a lot of termites and they could do a lot of destruction just in 6 months.
Oh yeah.
So I looked at a house real quick. I looked down, I saw a little bit of damage. I knew a number. I had, I don't know, we'll say, $50,000 budget to renovate this home.
Yeah.
I go away, lock it up. They start doing the work. They open up the walls. $35,000 change order. $35,000. And the contractor was not ripping me off. He had to rebuild the entire structure of the house in about 5.
Wow.
I
You didn't
ended
make
up-
no money on that deal.
I almost did because of an appraising market. And I had it under contract and I would have made like $1,500, but it didn't appraise. So I lost $7,500. But I'm almost happier I lost money because it needed to it needed to be a learning lesson. That was no matter how much you're in a rush, I have systems in place. Get that termite inspector out there. Check and it could be the same. And I know this, like you said, a lot of people have a lot of different businesses. It could be the same in any business. Make sure you do your due diligence. It's just the bottom line. Don't skip over something because you've been doing enough of them and you think you're okay.
Yeah. I love that perspective. When you said that, I'm glad I got the loss, basically, right? And I used to say this when I played basketball, especially if we were in tournament style. If we could get a loss early and still like circle back as the underdog, that was always my preference. Not that I wanted to lose, but I would much rather show up to the championship game with a loss as opposed to being undefeated for this exact reason, because we've been through it. We know what it feels like to be pressurized all the way and then to not come back. And so we knew how to push through. And that's why the underdog wins sometimes, is because they've been through that moment, or in this case, when you got the loss. So now you know what to do in that termite scenario. So you learned, as you said.
Yeah.
Okay. So thinking about decisions now, and obviously decisions are huge in our business, but like you've given us a good and bad one. Do you have a discipline or like a process that you follow to like help you make good ones repeatedly?
Yeah, so what I've been trying to implement, again, I know I mentioned a little bit, but my ADHD mind, I'm all over the place a lot, but that's why I'm bringing in the team is I just sat down and we started doing a lot of checklists. So pretty much for everything that we do. So I don't think I really went over this too much, but I have a few different branches. So I'm a real estate agent here in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yep.
I do about 60 deals a year on the real estate side, on the retail. I do flip a certain amount of homes. I actually go by gross income, necessarily number of homes.
Yeah.
That's how I analyze my goals. So retail, flip, buy and hold. I do some private money lending with some partners. And then we do some off marketing. I don't like to say wholesale because we off market to try to keep them for ourselves or for my clients.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a array of different businesses.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I just got off track there.
Your process to making good decisions.
Thank you. So each one of those, we have checklists for each one. So when it comes to residential sales, not only do I have a buyer and a seller packet I can give to my clients so that they know what to expect, then I also have the internal checklist. For flipping, we have the internal checklist before we purchase it. And after we purchase it, how we're handling with the contractor. So I think SOPs and checklists are extremely important, and they don't have to be perfect. And they're working documents. That's fine.
Right.
Just get something in place. And then when you make a mistake, you add that, you don't do it again.
Right. That's right. No, that process that you just described is applicable in every business. Not only just write down what you're doing, that also, as you write it down, it'll give you perspective of like, do I need to do that step? Does that step belong there? Like just the fact that you just write it down is step one. But then what you said there at the end of just, it's all right. It doesn't have like, this isn't the final version. You can change it. If you mess up, you just add it in. You don't forget it next time. Not one decision is going to take you down unless you let it be the thing that just happens over and over and over. Right.
And that's the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So as long as you're adaptable and your system is systematic, like you can do this. Everybody out there listening, like you could be very successful, whatever you define success as. Just have your right team in place, your right systems in place, and be adaptable, because no matter what business you're in, especially real estate right now, you see everything rocking. Yep. You just have to be able to pivot.
Yep. Pivot and move. I love it. Okay. So are you ready for the speed round here, Dan? Mr. Rivers on the speed round. Here we go. One metric. You can only pick one. In all the different businesses that you just told me about, what's the one metric that you would track forever and ever?
forever and ever, meaning
You could only pick the one.
on how my business is surviving.
Sure.
I was going to say, if I can go more personal route, I'd say relationships. How many
Okay.
relationships I have. That'd be the metric of if I'm successful, I'm around
Right.
successful people.
Yeah. Okay. And so do you think that that translates into the businesses also? Is it relationships?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've created some of my businesses because of relationships. I think that's one of the strongest things my private money lending business. I'm with some amazing people, and we are actually, one of my coaches say, I'm sorry, I know speak around, but
Sorry.
I'd rather have a piece of watermelon than a whole grape. And like, you just need that. Like if you're around great people and you're working with great people, your checks and balances are in place and you could do some amazing things. So yeah, I'd say relationships and people.
That's good, man. Okay. And what book would you recommend that a six-figure earner or a business owner read?
I'm actually listening to an audiobook right now called Psychology of Money, and it's amazing.
Okay. Very good. What's your takeaway so far in that book?
Just that I think one of the biggest takeaways is everybody's going to look at life and money differently because it's 99.5% based on your experiences, and you only experience 0.00001 of what like the world has to offer.
Sure.
So like, don't just write someone off because they may think different than you because they have different experiences. And I mean, it's a very powerful book.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Sounds like one that would encourage one to be open-minded, which I think open-mindedness for growth brings, like you said, the team members, the ability to delegate, like you're open to all these probably new concepts that you're not doing in your business or not doing very well right now. And that's why you probably haven't gotten past the six-figure mark yet. So this is super practical. I'm loving what Dan's giving to you. So what is actually, do you intentionally network or mastermind with other entrepreneurs, and why?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Intentional. Like we just talked about coming back from Denver, being in those groups. I think it's important to be in groups, but in the right groups.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be your fit. It's got to be your personality around the proper people. Because right now, when the economy's booming, everybody's an expert. Everybody can teach you how to be better.
Yep.
But
That's right.
I want to be in groups that I know are going to be around for the next 10, 15 years. And I'm really going to learn some stable, valuable lessons from, not get rich quick.
Yeah.
So
It's good.
I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be in the right rooms with the right people, paying attention and following their lead.
Yep. Love that. Okay. If you only had 1 hour in the week to work on the business, what would you do in that hour to successfully run your business like you do
I
now?
would just look at the macros. I look at my KPIs on how the business is operating. I would look at the major items that are bringing in the most money, bringing in the most revenue, and then meet with my team and make sure they have the proper direction to execute.
Boom. Just like that. Last question. You ready?
Yes.
If you lost it all, what would you do?
Start over again.
You sound so
would-
confident.
I mean, once you've been in that room and you've made money and you've done it, it's not really, you've gained knowledge. Like you didn't lose it all. You might have lost your money. You didn't lose your knowledge. You didn't lose your relationships unless you burnt them, which hopefully you did.
It's true.
You just lost money. So now at this point, you just rebuild it.
Yeah. Love the simplicity of that answer. Dan, how you've got a lot of ways or reasons why someone would want to connect with you. I mean, obviously you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to business and team building. You're doing deals. I'm sure that there's deals that people can get in on with you if they want to invest, or if they just connected with you and they want to like reach out. How can they find you?
Yeah, you can go. My website's danrivers.com, nice and easy. So you can go in there, you can take a look at what I'm about, and you can connect with me in there. And Instagram, it's at Dan Rivers Realtor Investor. So you can also hop on Instagram and catch me. But yeah, please go to danrivers.com.
It's awesome, man. The value that you've provided today, both in and out of just the real estate investment space, I think is awesome. But I think the key takeaways here, if the listener was paying attention, they're going to have some growth. So thank you for adding value. We do not take it lightly. We wish you absolutely nothing but success in all that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Chaz. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.